My name is James Singleton, and this is my life story. I was a drug dealer, but I wasn't interested in using drugs. I tried weed, and I'm telling you, I loved the way it felt. I felt like I was just invisible. Even drinking, I ain't like that feeling. I used to have my friends and family say, man, how you sell drugs, but you don't even smoke weed? I seen what it did to everybody else, and I said to myself, I'll never be that. I wanted to be something great. My childhood growing up was different, I say, because the things that we see now, a child shouldn't have saw when I was growing up. A lot of drinking, drugs, violence, abusive relationships, dead bodies, people getting shot, fights for what you got on or where you stay at. And it was so crazy because you'll fight somebody to stay 2 minutes away, 3 minutes away, just been as a project. It was kind of a different environment, almost like animals in a jungle or something. One negative story or situation that happened in life that kind of I think about today is witnessing somebody lose their life over a loud radio. The individual was driving his car up on a ramp inside the projects, and a lady came out and said, hey, can you turn that down? And he disrespected her, went to the other side because the project was almost in an L shape. So he was talking to the lady that was above this side. He went on this side, and his cousin stayed up there, but her nephew stayed directly under. So as he was having a conversation about the lady, he was using words to disrespect her, and the nephew asked her, who is he talking to? And he said, I'm talking about her. And he said, that's my auntie. But long story short, he wound up pulling a gun out and shooting him over that argument and killed him. During school, the teacher said I had a learning disability, but as I got older, I realized the disability was her not being able to teach me the way I need to be taught. There was never a learning disability. It was just different methods of teaching students. I found out later in life that I just didn't know the rules to reading. But during that time, she spoke something over my life that affected me in a negative way. She said James couldn't do it. And because she was an authoritative figure over my life, I believed what she said. And because she said that, they placed me in a system of special education. And when I got to high school, it was really embarrassing because now I'm older, I'm looking at myself, and I don't have the things that I need. Plus, I can't read. And to be called on when you can't read, it was embarrassing. And not even wanting to ask for help because you're so embarrassed because when you ask for help, people make fun of you. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to learn the things that you're supposed to learn in school. So I just stayed and took it. I had nightmares about school after growing up and finishing school. When I turned 16, my uncle came to me who was actually on drugs, and he said, you'll make a lot of money selling drugs. And I heard him, but it wasn't until my mother gave me $50 for school, and she said, go and get you something to wear. And I'm looking at this $50 like, this is not gonna be enough to even get a pair of tennis shoes. I'm tired of being talked about. I figured at least if I'm gonna be in special education, they ain't gonna talk about me like that. I look nice when they talk about me. So I took the $50, and I was already in a drug-infested area, community, neighborhood, so I knew exactly who to go to get some drugs. I took that $50 and I went and bought some drugs. And the first time the guy I bought the drugs from kind of took advantage of me. He gave it to me as if I wanted to use. And I'm like, I'm not using, I'm trying to make some money. So the first time I made my money back, I just made the 50 that I started off with. The second time I made $100. And when I began to first start selling it, I did it because I wanted shoes, I wanted clothes. That was the only way that I knew how. That's what I saw being done. So I took the $50 profit, and I went and bought a pair of shoes. I took the other 50, and I went and got another re-up. I got a dub. So I was able to make another $100. Then I went and got an outfit. Then I went and got another dub. And then I began to say, okay, well, once I got my clothes together, I got the shoes, the pants. I wasn't really into jewelry. I just wanted to look nice so I can blend in with my peers. And once I start to realize, well, if I take the whole 100, I can make 200. And if I take the whole 200, I can make 400. And if I can take the 400, I can make 8. So I began to flip and flip until I got to where I'm buying a half a bird. I sold other drugs, but crack cocaine was my drug of choice. That's where I made my most money off of. As I began to sell drugs, I realized that there was other type of people out there. We sold drugs, but then there was people who robbed the drug dealers. And by me selling drugs, and if I allow you to rob me, then that make me a target. It began to get violent because now you got to defend yourself. I can't let you take my money or my drugs because everybody else would. And I never intended on life being like that. When I got robbed, it was set up by one of my closest friends. I was sitting in the house. It was me, my kid's mother, and my son. We just had a baby. My son was about 1 year old, and he just began to walk. One of my partners that I used to sell drugs with called me over and said, "Hey, the block is jumping." And that means that there was people out there looking for merchandise. So I left the house and I went over there. And when I got there, he was gone. Probably about 3 minutes later, my mother ran around the corner because she stayed in the projects as well. And she said, "Somebody just kicked in your door." So I stopped what I was doing and I ran all the way to the house. It was probably about maybe a 5-minute run from where I was at. And when I got there, the door was kicked open. I seen blood, but my son or my kid's mother wasn't there. I walked outside and here she come running down the street and I see a hole in her head where she got smacked and blood running down. And at that particular moment, I kind of held it together, but I called her mother and said, "Hey, your daughter just got smacked with a gun. I'm taking her to the hospital." And later on, I found out the guy that called me and said the block was jumping was actually the one who set the whole play up. When I showed him a half a bird, I thought I could trust him. So anything he could wanted, he could have just asked me for it. But yet he set me up, and that was the outcome of the situation. One day I was standing outside in Longwood, and the Vice pulled up, and they was doing a undercover sting. This is what led me to prison. At this particular moment, they just trying to get more evidence. So they came up and said, "Hey, let me get something for a certain amount of dollars." I had just bought a purple truck, put rims on it, washing it up. So I wasn't really interested in making the money then. So I said, "You know what? I'll be right back." I didn't have anything on me. I went, got the car wash, came back. They were leaving. And probably about maybe 6 months later, the police came to my house with a federal warrant. Now, I'm glad they just had a federal arrest warrant and not a search warrant, because I had assault rifles in the house. I had drugs in the house. And if they would have caught me with that stuff, I'd probably just be getting out of jail now. It led me to get 3 years in federal prison. I copped out. They said I would get 2 years because I'd never been in trouble, but I wound up getting 3 years. I remember the ride to prison. The sheriff was kind of nice. They asked me, "Do you want something to eat?" That we stopped at the restaurant. They bought me some Burger King. But once I got to the prison, I looked and we walked in, they set me down, and I laughed because I said to myself, "Look what you got yourself into." Once I began to walk through the doors and get dressed, I adjusted kind of, this is where I'm gonna be at. The first couple of days was a little bit difficult. Miss your family, miss your friends, miss your freedom. But normally when you're in a situation, you're just there. I've been in the projects, prison wasn't that much different. I just kind of blended in. I played chess and played basketball. I was in federal prison, so it wasn't really violent. It was just boring. We just typically did the same thing every single day. You miss your freedom. One day, I was going to my cube, and there was 2 other inmates that was in there, and they was talking about the Bible, and they was talking about a story that was in the Bible that I heard that kind of changed the way I thought. And when I heard the Bible for the first time, like really hearing it, because you can hear it out here, but when you really hear the Bible for the first time, it kind of jumped out to me. And it was a story about Paul on his Damascus road when he heard from the Lord his first time. It kind of did something to me. So everything that I was doing, I stopped, because at this point, I want to know about God. I want to know if the stuff that they say is true. I used to stay up late in prison. About 4 or 5 o'clock, ministries come on. I watch the ministries. I watch T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, Juanita Bynum. I'm a sponge, especially when I like something. I went to my cube one day and I told God, I said, if you teach me how to read, I'll study your word. So I took my Bible because I believe that God just automatically do things for you. And I laid it on my chest and I went to sleep. But I woke up in the morning and I couldn't read. But by this time I had enough word in me, I had enough understanding that I can hear in my head conversations. And I know it's God speaking. And what he said was, faith without works is dead. At that particular moment, I had no idea what that meant. But what God was saying is, I'll do my part when you do your part. And I want to point out something. Anytime that you ask God for something, he don't have to stop and make it. 9 times out of 10, it's already there. So I went in there after I battled with myself, because you got pride and you don't want to expose yourself because people laugh at you and make fun of you. But I was so tired of being in my condition that I said, I'll just deal with anybody that's going to talk about me, laugh at me, because I want to get on that hooked on phonics, because I want to learn how to read. I want to continue to be the same way. So I got the hooked on phonics and I put it on. I knew the alphabets, I knew the sounds, I knew the consonants, I knew the vowels. I just didn't know the rules to reading. I didn't know it was so many different rules. So once I began to listen to it and watch the rules, then I was able to read. After I got my relationship with God in prison, I thought life was going to be amazing. I had this whole ideal of being married, living in a nice neighborhood with the white picket fence and everything, and being a believer was just going to be easy and amazing. But when I got out of prison, I found out that was far from the truth. And because I wasn't prepared for it, it was devastating. To be somewhere like school and not get the tools you need to learn is just as devastating as going to church and not getting the tools that you need to be able to be successful as a believer. So when you don't know something, you kind of have to figure it out on your own, because the church is not necessarily discipling and walking with you and teaching you. Your concept of what the Bible says can be completely off. I thought my life was just going to be amazing. I go home and I got married only to get divorced. There was no picket fence. There was no job waiting. But I told myself I'll never sell drugs again. And the reason I said I never sell drugs again is because God spoke to me in a way that I can understand it. And he said, when you selling drugs, you're not just affecting the person that's getting high. You're affecting the whole household, the mother, the daughter, the kids. God gives us everything that we need already to be successful. The tools that we need, we already have. There's no coincidence that we great at what we great at. Nobody creates themselves. God placed everything inside of a person, and it's up to us to develop it and utilize it. And he gives us certain examples in life when we see our children, the relationship we got with our kids. If our kids do something wrong, we don't stop loving them. So God is a father. We gonna get punished, of course, because we doing something we don't have no business doing. But at the end of the day, he's gonna still love us. So what the Bible is saying is, I know you did it, but I forgive you. So what I learned is the key to life is to love. When we want God to do something, God also wants us to do something. We live in a fairy tale world when we believe we can just ask God to do something, he's going to automatically do it. It doesn't work like that. So I just say, God, I'm not going to ask you for money because we spend money, but I ask you for an idea. Teach me how to be successful. I heard the voice in my head, and I always contribute to God, is the need to help the community, the need to help the kids. So ideas is what produce success. Because of my street life, I sold drugs. Drugs is a business. It's not legal, but it's a business. So I learned how to do legal business from doing illegal business. I began to look for buildings, and I rolled past this one building that I ride past all the time, and the sign kind of just jumped out. It says 3 months free. I called the number, and at this particular time I had skills, but I'm depressed. I'm completely broke. But I called the number because I wanted the information, and when I called, a guy named Drew answered the phone. He said he'd meet me there. And I said, okay, Drew, I want this building. I don't have any money. I don't have a job. But I told Drew, I'm gonna get this building from you. What I did is I said, God, I need an idea. How can I make money? When I was in the streets, I'm living for the enemy. I was able to get anything I want. I said, I know you're way powerful, more powerful than he is. I should be able to get what I want now. Went over to my friend's house, and he had one of them little indoor basketball hoops, and the light just came on. I said, I'm about to get basketball hoops, video games, bouncy house, and I'm about to turn this into an event center. I've been in business now for about 4 years, and I have two right side by side each other. Today I make money for helping people fix their houses up. When I was selling drugs, I was selling weed, PCP, I was selling pills, and crack. I applied the same effort that I did in the streets to this thing I'm doing now. So now I do electrical, I do plumbing, I do drywall, I do framing, fix houses. I remember asking God, why did you allow me to go through everything you allowed me to go through? I said, you God, you allowed me to be in special education. You allowed me to be in the projects, in broken situations. You allowed me to go to prison. And I remember hearing him say, because I want you to be relevant. Today I'm relevant. Today I'm able to speak to those who are in need of education. I'm relevant today because I talk to those who coming home from prison. I'm relevant because I can help not only talk to them, but give them a job and an occupation, teach them a career, how to do something. And I'm relevant because I don't have to sell drugs to get what I want. So I can be an example to all those people that's in the streets that think that you have to sell drugs in order to be successful. So I'm relevant today because I put God first and I work hard.